shortly after I had been teaching this new course at Northwestern's Master of Science and Data Science program on artificial intelligence and deep learning, which was packed every time. It was exactly what people were looking for. And I had one of the first graduates call me up, and he was a bright guy, by the way, one of the best of the best, got to say this. And he was so excited because he got a job offer, and he was describing his interview process, and he was describing how he was up at the whiteboard with the person who was really going to make the yay or nay decision about whether this guy was qualified to come in. And they were talking about backpropagation, and he was sketching out the basic notion of how the backpropagation derivation works, that you have your sum squared error at the outside edge, and that you're taking the derivatives of that sum squared error and propagating it through. And he wasn't necessarily deriving equations, he was just sort of doing a flow diagram, but it evidenced that he understood what was going on, and he got the job because he understood backprop. Okay, that was about the 2017 time frame. Now I'm recording in the early months of 2024, and we know well, if you understand backpropagation, that gets you a bronze star in a high school science project. All the things that were the hallmarks of early AI and neural networks, CNNs being a particularly good example. Everything that's dependent on you knowing the answer in advance so you can guide the connection weight formation within your neural network. That's not generative AI. It doesn't get you a job. So we're faced with this conundrum. How do you learn generative AI when there is such a huge air gap between what you can get, say, out of a chat GPT? Oh, generative AI is the kind of neural network or AI that generates an outcome. It's like, oh God, save me from this banal blather. Okay, I really must apologize to Messrs. Altman and colleagues. ChatGPT is not all that bad, but I still find it a little plastic. I really love to have a human in the loop. I love to have a human who integrates diagrams and figures and their personal interpretation and sort of weaves the whole story. And ChatGPT and all those LLMs still come across to me as just a little tiny bit lacking in nuance and interpretive subtlety. So what are you going to do if your goal is to start at the high-level description, and even if you're working with the ChatGPT or other LLM, work your way down to being able to read some serious research, and especially the originating papers, or even more than that, the papers that purport to be tutorials. There's that huge gap, and never the twain shall meet. So that's what we're talking about right now, is how can you get that big picture of the major components of generative AI. We're going to identify them as three great big interlocking jigsaw pieces, and then how do they connect together? What are the interfaces? What are the connections between those pieces? And we're going to do that at a very big overview level first, and then through successive vids we'll be able to break it down. This is the heart and soul and center of the short course that Themesis is offering right now on top 10 terms in statistical mechanics. It's turned out to be so much more. What it really is introduction to generative AI from that what are your fundamental concepts and how do they hook together perspective. Those concepts include the three big puzzle pieces: reverse Kullback-Leibler, Bayesian conditional probabilities, and statistical mechanics, specifically the notion of free energy and finding a free energy minimum, which is the stability point in your system. So they all connect. Those three notions underlie energy-based neural networks and variational inference. Seeing how these concepts show up in both disciplines is so intriguing and fascinating. Please do at least check out the course materials. So we're going to give you a link in the description box below. Thank you for joining me, Aliana Moren from Themesis Incorporated. Have a lovely day.